Patience is a virtue that nobody has time for. The summer sun hung low over the horizon, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and pink. In a quiet village, where time moved just a little slower than the rest of the world, an old man and his grandson sat on the porch of their small, weathered house. Arjun, the grandson, was slouched in frustration, aggressively rubbing the dirt off his hands after yet another failed attempt at learning to carve wood. His grandfather, Dadaji, a man of few but powerful words, watched him with a knowing smile. "I can't do it, Dadaji," Arjun huffed, throwing the small wooden block onto the floor. "I've tried so many times, and it still looks like a lump instead of an elephant." Dadaji chuckled. "Ah, so you've decided to quit. Good, good." Arjun frowned. "Good, but I'm failing." Dadaji slowly picked up the wooden block, turning it over in his wrinkled hands. "Tell me, Arjun, do you know how long it takes for a mango tree to bear fruit?" Arjun sighed, knowing this was one of Dadaji's roundabout ways of teaching a lesson. "A few years, I guess?" "Ah, a few years. And yet, no mango tree has ever screamed in frustration and thrown itself to the ground." Arjun rolled his eyes. "That's because trees don't have to carve elephants out of wood." Dadaji laughed, the deep kind of laugh that came from years of understanding life. "You think patience is only about waiting, but it's not. It's about knowing that good things take time and sticking with it." Arjun crossed his arms. "But I don't have time. I want to be good at it now." Dadaji nodded. "Ah, yes, because everything must happen instantly these days. You have instant noodles, instant messages, instant shopping. Even your cricket highlights come in a 30-second video, so you don't have to watch the full match." Arjun smirked. "Well, who has time for all that?" Dadaji leaned forward, his eyes twinkling. "Let me tell you a story. The potter's patience. When I was your age, there was a potter in our village named Ramdas. He was famous for making the most beautiful clay pots, strong, smooth, perfect in shape. People came from far and wide to buy them. One day, a young man, much like you, came to Ramdas, full of excitement. "Teach me, master," he said. "I want to make the best pots like you." Ramdas smiled and handed him a lump of clay. "Knead it first," he instructed. The young man kneaded the clay for a few minutes before sighing. "This is taking too long. I want to shape the pot now." Ramdas only chuckled. "Very well," he said, and he let the young man place the half-kneaded clay on the wheel. The young man spun the wheel and tried to shape the pot, but the clay wobbled, cracked, and collapsed into a mess. Frustrated, he shouted, "Why won't it work?" Ramdas simply handed him another lump of clay. "Knead it properly first." Days passed and the young man grew impatient. He wanted to shape, not knead. "Can't I just skip this part?" he asked. Ramdas shook his head. "If the clay isn't ready, the pot won't be either. Rushing won't make it stronger. It'll only make it weaker." After weeks of kneading and trying, the young man finally shaped his first pot. It wasn't perfect, but it held its shape. He was about to celebrate when, crack, the pot broke in the kiln. Defeated, he looked at Ramdas. "Why did it break?" Ramdas smiled. "Because you must wait for the right temperature. If the fire is too hot too fast, the pot will crack. If you don't let it fire long enough, it will remain weak. Everything must be given its proper time." It took the young man months before he finally made a pot as strong and beautiful as Ramdas's. And do you know what he said when he finally did? Arjun shrugged. "What?" Dadaji grinned. He said, "I wish I had been more patient from the start." Arjun's realization. Arjun stared at his wooden block. "So you're saying I have to keep failing before I get it right?" Dadaji patted his back. "No, I'm saying you have to keep trying before you get it right. There is no shortcut to patience. It's like cooking a good meal. If you rush it, it'll taste bad. If you give it time, it will be delicious." Arjun thought for a moment. "But what if I take forever to get good?" And if Dadaji chuckled, "Then you'll still have spent your time learning something valuable instead of wasting it complaining." He picked up his own piece of wood and a knife. "Come, let's carve together. And this time, instead of rushing to make an elephant, just focus on shaping one ear." Arjun took a deep breath, picked up his carving knife, and started again. This time, he didn't rush. He focused. He laughed when he made a mistake instead of throwing the wood away. The sun eventually dipped below the horizon, and under the soft glow of the lantern, Dadaji looked at Arjun's hands, still carving, still trying. He smiled. Patience was a virtue, and tonight, Arjun finally had time for it. moral of the story is patience is not about waiting, it's about trusting the process. Rushing leads to failure, but persistence and steady effort lead to true success. Just like the potter's clay, the mango tree, and Arjun's carving, everything valuable in life takes time to grow, strengthen, and take shape. If we embrace patience instead of fighting it, we not only achieve our goals, but also enjoy the journey.